Hello everyone, welcome to ABC Interactive English. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sam.
And I live in an apartment. Where do you live, Sam?
I live in a shoe.
You live in a shoe just like the woman in the story. Wow.
Yes, well, of course I don't actually live in a shoe. I live in an apartment also.
Okay.
But if you had to live in a shoe, what type of shoe would you live in?
This is a question I have never spent even 1 second of my life thinking about, but I will think about it now for you.
Okay.
I would live in a big Canadian winter boot.
Ooh.
It has fur around the top, very classy. It's waterproof, lovely. It won't let me fall on ice, but it's a home. It's big.
So you're hoping it might be a mobile home?
It's safe, exactly. It's very safe. It's quite big. It has thick walls, but it might be too hot in the summertime.
Yes, I think if you lived in a winter boot, you might have to live somewhere where it's always cold.
Oh, in the summertime, I would live in a pair of sandals and have a nice open air. Yeah. What about you? What kind of shoe would you live in?
You know, I think a boot could be that's a good answer.
It's a good solid house.
But I might choose something that has a little bit of breathability. So maybe like a big tennis shoe. Because then I could have where the laces go. There might be like little windows.
Okay.
You know, and some airflow.
That's a pretty good idea. I'm also thinking that maybe LeBron James's shoe, no matter what, if it's his nice dress leather shoe, his basketball shoe, maybe he has winter boots, they would be big.
Yes.
I would love to have a nice big house or a size 20 shoe. That would be a definite improvement compared to my apartment now. But we do have a little old woman. She does live in a shoe. It's a giant's shoe. And it's not just her, it's her whole family, but not her husband.
Yes.
He's missing. So let's go back and find out more about it.
The old woman and her children made the shoe their home. They lived happily for many years. However, the eldest son knew she wasn't happy. So he got his next 11 brothers together. They armed themselves with weapons and set off for the giant's castle. There, the eldest entered alone and killed a guard dragon.
All right, the little old woman who lived in a shoe, part 2. Shoe, 2, it rhymes. I like it. Okay, what's going on now?
Well, okay, as we left off, the woman and her many children have decided to make this giant's shoe a house. So now, let's see what we are going to do next. So, the old woman and her children made the shoe their home. They lived happily for many years. So maybe during this time they've kind of forgot about the husband?
I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe because the husband was taken by the giant, they thought they will never see him again. And of course they were sad. But after a few years, they started to enjoy their new life. The shoe was not a terrible place to live, but I'm sure they still missed their father. They still wanted to know where he was, or even if they can bring him home. So we read on, and it says, however, the eldest son knew she, his mother, the eldest son knew she wasn't happy. Of course, this old woman is a great mother. She puts a smile on. She seems to be in a good mood. But sometimes the husband, the son can see her looking out the window or maybe crying quietly because she still misses her husband. She still had her best friend and her boyfriend and her husband, all that thing, taken away from her, and that is sad. So this eldest son, the oldest boy in the family, he wants to help his mom. Good boy. So he got his next 11 brothers together. His next 11, so there's 12 boys in this family. That is a big family, but also that means the eldest son has lots of brothers to help him, and hopefully they can be successful. Yes, I mentioned he is the oldest boy in the family. When we talk about the oldest something, especially people, especially brothers and sisters and things like that in the family, the oldest is the eldest. It's just another way of saying the one that is the highest in number when we talk about how old, how many years it's lived, its age, or something like that. So the eldest is the oldest in the family.
Yes, and it's almost always used in that eldest way or elder. Right. You wouldn't really say like, oh, he's so old, oh, he's so eld. We can't really do that.
No, it's always you can do the elder, most old. Yeah.
Older or eldest, elder or eldest, those are both okay. Now, if we continue on with our story, we have they armed themselves with weapons and set off for the giant's castle.
Wow, okay. Yes. They're going to get revenge on the giant.
So they're not totally sure what they might find, but there's 12 of them and they have weapons and they're going to go see what they can do to get maybe revenge or maybe find the husband. Maybe the dad is still alive. We don't know.
And they're ready for a fight, aren't they?
Yes, because they have a bunch of weapons. So weapon is a noun, and that is a tool to use to be used to fight. So it could be maybe swords, it could be some sticks, maybe they got some sticks or some clubs, maybe a bow and arrow, maybe some guns, who knows? So probably not guns though. This is a older story. True. Let's say maybe swords and maybe some like spears and
bows
clubs.
And arrows. I guess you could say your hands could be a weapon if you're Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee, but generally it's something else you use, right, to fight, to do violent things with. So they're ready for a fight. They're ready maybe to even kill the giant if they can find him. So they go off to the giant's castle. There, at the castle, there, the eldest entered alone and killed a guard dragon. Well, good thing he brought those weapons. Yeah. Because you don't want to fight a guard dragon without a good weapon. And so that's the oldest boy. Sorry, that's the oldest boy. He was sort of the leader. He's kind of the captain of this little army. And they killed a dragon, so they're fighting their way into the castle to get the giant. Ooh.
Yeah, and as you see in the story, it says he went in by himself and killed the guard dragon on his own. And in the original story, this eldest brother, his name is Strong Arm. So we can see that this boy was very strong and he could kill the dragon all on his own.
He's a warrior.
Yes, and so we had this word guard. So guard is a noun. A guard is a person who will protect an area. In this case, we have somebody who is guarding, or something, a dragon, guarding the castle. You might also have a guard at your house if you live in an apartment building. In Taiwan, a lot of the buildings have security guards down at the bottom to kind of make sure who's going in and out. And we can also use guard dog or usually guard dog, and that's something that people will have to protect their land or their house or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. We see guards in front of the president's office or big government buildings, and of course most banks here in Taiwan. When you walk in the door, usually there's a guard by the door. They kind of look like a police officer with a special uniform, but really they're there just to stop bad guys from doing crimes. Now most banks would have people as guards, but if you're a giant who lives in a castle, you might have a dragon as a guard, and that is very unusual because dragons are not real animals, but we do find them in stories and books and things like that. Dragons are kind of like dinosaurs. They're big, they kind of look like a lizard or an alligator. They might have wings, they might breathe fire, but of course they do not exist in the real world. Don't go to Taipei Zoo and say, "Where are the dragons?" Because they'll look at you like, no, we don't have those. But if you read a story, if you look at Lord of the Rings, and of course in Chinese mythology, dragons are very lucky. In Western stories, they're often evil and dangerous, but also often very smart and wise. They can use magic. But again, they're creatures from stories, but they're big, they're scary, and they can breathe fire. So killing one is still pretty good.
Yeah.
Well done to strong arm. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back to find out what happens with the giant. Ugh.
After that, he called his brothers, and together they freed their father. Back at the shoe, the old woman worried about her sons. Then, an old witch showed up and offered to help.
All right, so this is the big, exciting action scene in our story. The brothers are fighting their way into the castle to save their father. And they've already killed one of the giant's guard dragons. So that is one of the evil enemies they have to beat to get into the castle to find their father. So after that, after the eldest brother, Strong Arm, had killed the guard dragon, he called his brothers, "Brothers, to me!" And together they freed their father.
Oh, yay!
Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
They'll be home in time for lunch.
Why didn't they do that years ago?
That's a good question. It wasn't that hard. So they got into the castle. They found where their father was. He was still alive, which is, good news. And they managed to free him. Now, we often use free as an adjective. You are free to do something, or I got a free bag of potato chips at the store. It didn't cost money. But here we're using it as a verb, and basically to free something is to let something go that you've had trapped or caged or contained or something like that. If you free a prisoner, that means someone did a crime, they went to jail, and maybe a few years later, okay, now you can go back, you can get out of jail, you can be a normal person again. We will free you. So we will open the door, let you go. If an animal gets freed from the zoo, that could be bad, right? We might read about a lion was freed from the zoo by accident. Now it's walking around, it could eat people. This is terrible. And if you have a pet bird at home, when you clean its cage, you might have to free the bird, let it fly around in the bathroom, and then put it back in the cage. It will no longer be free. So we can use it also as a verb.
Yes, and so we've got the brothers over here doing some great stuff, rescuing their dad. And now we're going back to the old woman and seeing what's going on with her. So we have, back at the shoe, the old woman worried about her sons, which she should be. They're going to fight a dragon and a giant. So we continue reading. Then an old witch showed up and offered to help. So we've got a little extra help coming from this witch. We have this new character show up, and a witch is a noun, and it is a person who is able to do magic. Now, this is usually used as to describe a female who can do magic, so a woman. And we might use a wizard or a warlock or a sorcerer if we're talking about a male who can do magic. So this is usually a woman who can do magic. Now, in stories, you might see a witch with like the big black hat and the little pointy hat and maybe a big crooked green nose and a broom.
And a black cat.
And a black cat. and a cauldron, a big black pot.
Oh, yeah, to make her potions.
Yes, those are kind of the classic images of a witch.
That's
and
true.
So we'll see, is she here to really help or not, and see if she's...
It's true. There are some good witches in stories, but most of them are not that good.
I'm a little worried for the woman. Hopefully this is a good witch.
Well, we're going to have to hope. We're going to have to hope, keep our fingers crossed, and come back tomorrow to find out what happens to the woman, the witch, the sons, the father, and the giant. Many questions to answer tomorrow, so come back and join us for that. Until then, give everyone nightmares. Bye.
The old woman and her children made the shoe their home. They lived happily for many years. However, the eldest son knew she wasn't happy. So he got his next 11 brothers together. They armed themselves with weapons and set off for the giant's castle. There, the eldest entered alone and killed a guard dragon. After that, he called his brothers, and together they freed their father. Back at the shoe, the old woman worried about her sons. Then, an old witch showed up and offered to help.
Hi, I'm Tina. 我们来看这一课的重点单字。第一个 eldest 形容词，最年长的。Ben is the eldest child in the family. Ben 是家中最大的孩子。下一个单字 guard 名词，看守、守卫。Can a guard dog be a family dog? 警卫狗能成为家犬吗？下一个单字 dragon 名词，龙。Tim killed the dragon and saved the princess. Tim 杀死了那条龙，救出了公主。最后一个单字 free 动词，使自由，使解脱。I opened the cage and freed the bird. 我打开笼子，放生了这只鸟。接着我们来看重点文法。第一个，我们来整理 arm 的用法。arm 当动词是以武器来装备的意思，常见的用法是 arm somebody oneself， 它的后面可以加上 with， 再接武器，表示武装。我们来看看这个例句 ：The boys armed themselves and joined the fight。那些男孩们武装自己，加入战斗。arm 也可以当作名词，表示我们的手臂。我们来看看这个例句。I fell down and hurt my arm. 我跌倒，伤到手臂了。下一个文法 set off for place， 出发去某地。set off 表示出发，动身前往。set 的三态同形哦。我们来看看这个例句 ：They set off for the forest this morning. 他们今天早上出发前往森林里了。以上就是这一课的重点单字跟文法，我们下一课再见喽，拜拜。
Taichung Park is one of the city's main attractions. It was created over 110 years ago by the Japanese colonial government. One of the most popular features is Huqing Pavilion on Sun Moon Lake. The beautiful structure was built to accommodate Prince Kanin Kotohito, who visited in 1908. You can even rent small boats to navigate on the lake. Other sites of interest in the park include Fortress Hill and Victory Monument.